We are live! Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Show Must Go On line. Today's guest is Shamarah Hernandez. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
Hey, y'all, and happy St. Patty's Day to you and yours.
I'm not wearing green, and I just realized. So, ooh,
Oops, no, I did my makeup for everyone at home who's watching now and not audio during a podcast, and I did pink and purples, and I was like, oh, that was cool. I totally should have done greens because it's St. Patty's Day. Whoops.
uh, and all my green items are out of reach right now because I got ready for this. So, you've got to trust that there's green around me.
I'm sending you those green vibes.
Yes, eco-friendly vibes.
Eco-friendly vibes, even better. Oh, this is perfect. So let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. And let's hear your origin story. What got you into acting and freestyling and all that jazz?
Wow. My origin story. I mean, I think it definitely comes from part of my interest in the arts. I think just comes from being in a family that appreciated music. I have an older sister who was in her high school's version of show choir, and I think as a kid just wanting to. She's 9 years older, so just trying to compete with all the adults talking. Or at my age, it seemed like everybody was adults. So. Um, I think just listening to the radio, watching lots of Disney princess movies, and my mom now tells me that she knew that singing was probably going to be a part of what I like to do because I would always I would watch the movies over and over again, but on the second or third view, I would have the songs memorized, and I'd be singing along to Ariel and everybody. So I think that's that's part of it. Yeah, I remember my family thinking I was very shy, but then when I entered a talent contest at my high school with a song, I feel like after I didn't know that they didn't I didn't know what they didn't know about me and my interest in music. So I remember coming off stage and they were like, Shamara, where did you get that confidence? We thought you were shy. I didn't know you were gonna belt at the end because they only heard me practice the first verse. It was "Fly Me to the Moon," um, and I would practice the first go round with no extra runs or rips, but I'd always planned on doing them from the stage. So
Ooh.
um, yeah, and then so that's kind of singing. Everything was sort of, I don't want to say by accident, but I feel like it's kind of a if this hadn't happened exactly that way, if my high school hadn't decided to either discontinue orchestra, or if I had lost interest in orchestra, I probably wouldn't have auditioned for show choir when I was in high school. And if the band room hadn't been full, then I wouldn't have gone over to the orchestra room in eighth grade, which is where I learned how to play violin, and I was playing that for almost 10 years. Yeah, so different. I think there's many origin stories because I've been involved in a lot of little pieces of art, but essentially just something that helped me express myself. Um, yeah,
I love that. And it really goes to show that there are so many moments in your life that you don't know that this is a fork in the road, and that whichever avenue you take could lead you down these different paths. And it's so interesting to look back on them. But it's also really cool to think, wow, if this one thing didn't happen, who knows if I would have found this love for this one particular thing.
right. Yeah. And I definitely have those moments, but that's why I feel just really grateful that things have gone the way that they've gone. And also, I think it brings me a little bit of peace when things feel out of control, or I really wanted this thing to happen, but it didn't. It's well, I could say the same about a lot of things, and they've generally turned out well. So I'm feeling good, blessed.
Yeah. I'm very happy to hear that. There's a lot of reflection going on, especially during quarantine, where you think, should I have done this, or should I be going in this direction? And, I think a whole bunch about how I'm grateful that I made the move from being a reporter in West Texas at the end of 2019 or 2018, moved to New York in 2019, had a whole year covering Broadway before the shutdown. And just like the timing of all that if I had done it any differently, like would I have had these connections? Would I have met you? Would I have done the Freestyle Love Supreme Academy, which is
Yeah.
how we met, and we will get into it.
Ah.
So yeah, I do. I think about that a lot. Just these like moments where you make a life decision and you don't necessarily know the ramifications and the effects that will happen down the road. Are there any specific moments that in your like adult life you've done something like that and you kind of reflect back on it?
Um, yeah, I would say a turning point for me where I kind of took a leap and it has shifted everything since. I mean, there are a few. There are definitely a few. I'll talk about a more recent one. I think that brought us to like this table, this virtual table right now. Um, are you familiar with Astronomy Club, the comedy? Uh, they're not a duo. What's the term for like an for 8 people? They're an octet.
Octet.
Yes, so they're a comedy octet. Um, check them out on Netflix. Spoiler, but so they had like a then weekly show at the UCB East Theater. And I remember it was like after the 2016 election, I became like fascinated in an academic sense with like comedy. And I remember thinking like, how is the country going to like, uh, how are we going to process this through what we're laughing at? Like I was very interested in what like SNL was going to say, not because I wanted to watch, but it was like, what are they going to do? What is late night going to become? You know, I was interested. Um, so that's how I went to my first like show, my first improv show, and saw like a few members of this team. And then I realized I was going back like every week to see their show. And their show was very unique in that it was audience participation. So they'd have a microphone off to the side and they would ask us for our personal anecdotes about like race and diversity. And then they would use our stories as like fodder for their improv, and they're just so brilliant. So every time it was like so entertaining, but also very like cathartic to hear, you know, sometimes like very serious stories, funny stories, like bland stories, everything in between, and they would make this incredible comedy out of it. And I would go every week, and I would usually like tell a story too. So I was like, oh, I've got tons of them, like from corporate America or from like my own life, you know. So I went for like months. And if you're in the improv world, people at this point might be like, you went to the show every single week. And it's I didn't know sometimes what you don't know like is the blessing, because I didn't know that that was like unpopular or not unpopular, but like that's unusual. Usually someone's like, oh, this is cool, but like I'm gonna go see another team sometimes. No, I was always seeing Astronomy Club. Um, I ran into a friend of mine from college, like a friend of a friend, really. Now we're friends. And I was like, hey, how are you? And we were catching up. She's like, oh, so what brings you here? I'm like, oh, I'm here all the time. Like, I'll tell this story. And then I just love them, you know, I'm making friends with the team backstage. Not really, but like, we're friends now. This was, you know, years ago. And since then, you know, anyways. Um, and the turning point was she said, "You know you can take classes, right?" I never would have thought of like doing improv or trying it at all. I was like, "No, no, I'm just an avid fan. I'm in the audience with you. I'm not why would I how? Like aren't they really expensive?" And she's like, "Well, there's a diversity scholarship if you want to try it out." And it had never even crossed my mind until that point. I would still be like I think if we hadn't had that conversation, I'd still be like watching them, and I'd be a very avid fan, but I wouldn't have like started performing comedy and I think the fact that I was doing improv is what gave me the confidence and interest to not the interest, but like the confidence to try something like the FLS Academy, which is how we met. So I think that moment, like just that question of like, you know, you can take classes has really kind of we went this way from then on.
I'm obsessed. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And to think you could still be in the audience right now.
Yeah. Just like, I have a
Wow.
suggestion, I have a story, you know?
Yeah, right. Write it down on a little piece of paper.
And I'm still, I mean, I'm still very much in the audience. I'm just also on stage sometimes too, you know?
True, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're part of the fam, and it's kind of a different, don't you think there's like this different energy when you're seeing FLS or you're seeing that group, that octet, if you will?
For sure. I think I still remember the first time that I was like in a show alongside them, and those moments are very meaningful
Yeah.
because it's like the relationship between, I guess it depends on the performer, but like, there are performers that are like cool with being friends, who are being friends with their fans and stuff.
Mm,
But I think it does bring something else to it when it's like your co-creators, or it's like you understand what's going behind the scenes, and they
yeah.
can give you feedback. Like, I remember the first time I saw somebody from the octet in the audience to see me. It's just
Ooh.
milestone after, like, that felt like, oh, I guess I'm doing okay. It was very meaningful, and it's like
Yeah.
to have somebody support you. Yeah, I think the level of support is really one of the biggest differences. Like, because I know
Mm,
what goes behind it, or have a sliver of understanding of what goes behind the amazingness on stage. And the same goes for FLS. Like, knowing we knew how talented they were, but now, like, knowing how patient that they are and how, like, focused on community they are, it just really enhances everything. So that's cool.
yeah, it's making me think of like the veil. You know, a lot of times they say with magicians that you don't want to know because it ruins the magic. But
Hmm.
with FLS and comedy and freestyling, it almost like doubles it because you're like, whoa, I know how hard that is. I know how you have to simultaneously be in the moment and thinking ahead, but not thinking ahead with like your front brain. You have to be like full paying attention, but then coming up with like this cool rhyme or not rhyme because you don't have to rhyme. That's also
Right.
where a lot
Yeah.
of people get confused. But
Yeah.
okay, all that being said, let's hear your FLS and then FLSA journey.
Okay. So I gotta be honest, I was not that familiar with Freestyle Love Supreme before the Academy. I may be one of the few who I was like, what? Like, that was my I just didn't know. I didn't know what they did. I think I'd seen some clips. Like, I was of course familiar with Lin Manuel Miranda and the musicals. Um, I think a friend of mine posted the ad or something, like, on his or her, like, Facebook, just saying, "Oh, it's hi, I'm a guest." Oh, yeah, yeah. uh,
Props.
like, pasted the ad, and it was like, "Oh, do you want to learn to freestyle?" Like, Lin Manuel, like, the ad was very like, "Okay, this person exists," and that's what kind of got me clicking on it. Um, and I was interested. I was like, you know what? I have a little bit of rapping experience, but at the time I didn't consider it that. It was more like, I like to comedically change the lyrics to songs when I'm with my family and friends. I didn't know that that was anything, though. I was like, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. Um, so I applied, but then the timing for the first round, like, didn't work out. So they were, and like, I remember Jelly Donut, hello, if you're watching. Like, I was corresponding with him through email, and it was like, thank you so much for the spot. I can't, oh, I have a conflict, so I can't do it, but I'd love to do it next time. And I thought this was like a one in a million, like, we're doing it this season and never again. But luckily, they, I don't know, like, they kept me on file or something, and I was like, okay, I'm free. I don't know, is there another? I saw there was like another round of classes, so I did that round. Loved the experience of, like, taking the Foundations of Freestyle class, and, like, the community. It was just one of those times of, like, I just thought I was doing whatever, but hearing the people around me respond to it, and not just like, hey, dope rhymes, but like, I really miss my grandfather too. Like, one of my flows in our, like, final show was about my grandfather who had recently passed, and just like people in the audience, like people in the class with me, just like I felt really similarly, and thank you for sharing, and I hope you're okay and everything. Um, and it was the support from the like from other students and from the faculty, and they just encouraged me. They were like, "Hey, stay involved in the community. Like you." They just really encouraged me on like how I don't know what I brought to the community, and they reached out and asked how I'd like to be involved in the future. And I was like, "Hey, I mean, I don't know, like I'm an alumnus. What else is there?" But now I am like a facilitator, so I'll like help lead some of the workshops where we're uh, like spreading the freestyle love and teaching other people how to freestyle. One thing I'm really proud of is leading a monthly sort of like a freestyle jam digitally for the BIPOC community. So that feels really good. That's my FLS story. FLSA story.
Love, love, love. Yes, it is so wonderful having you as a facilitator. You bring so much love and light to the community. It's joining FLSA was one of the best decisions of my life, and having it during the pandemic, having this virtual digital community that we continue to have weekly recesses like every Sunday, every Sunday at 2, 5, whichever time zone you're at, you can log in and have that. But then also, as you're saying, these Wednesday ones that are just phenomenal, having the BIPOC community. There's the Work It Recess, which we have later today, which is for women, trans, non-binary identifying folks. And there was like a Jewish one, which was cool. There was an all Spanish one.
Yeah, the multilingual, absolutely.
Yeah, that is so cool. It's so funny to hear you go from FLSA to FLS rather than like, when I heard about it, I was like, oh, FLSA sounds so cool, but like, do I really have the funds for that right now? And then like miracle things happened, and I was like, it would be crazy to take a class with people who are currently on Broadway, right? Like the timing of it was bonkers. And then obviously right now I'm so grateful I did, because that was one of the last in-person classes. And we should mention that there are classes, Jelly Donut, Shockwave, Anissa, they have so many different classes, both for beginners, for intermediate, for kids, youths. Like, it's really great.
It's really great. I think that it's great that they've sort of taken the experience of like creating music or creating like stories in a musical fashion and just making that accessible to so many different kinds of people, like just so many people, and then different kinds of people, like all these different like backgrounds and age ranges. It's very cool. I think that for a long time, like hip hop and the freestyle, like the art of freestyling, it felt inaccessible to me. And like on paper, it might seem like I'm in the demographic, like, but I still felt like, oh no, I don't have the right, like, meaning, like, maybe I don't feel like I have the credentials or like the right to start like freestyling about my life. But I think that was like my limitation on what I thought like an authentic freestyler is or was. And I just really appreciate this community for like breaking that open for people. That hip hop is wide enough for both Hamilton and me. No, no. It's big enough for all of us to find ourselves in it.
Beautifully said. Love a
Couldn't
Hamilton
help
reference.
it. Couldn't help it.
Hey, I've got my Hamilton star that I keep with me.
I feel like with you, a Hamilton relic is not too far away anywhere that you are.
It's true. Just like my FLSA hat is just like in distance.
My gosh.
We love it. We love to see
have the stuff you love around you.
It's so true. I do want to comment on that fact that there's this I don't know, at least when I was going through it, there was so much anxiety around freestyling. I have to be the best. I have to be able to rhyme. I can't come up with a rhyme. I can't improv. I can't do this. And the way that they teach it is like you can do it, and you're only setting these limitations against yourself. Like there's no baseline. There's no anything. You feel it, and especially like through the weeks, you're like, wow, it is coming more naturally. It's not
Hmm.
going to be perfect, but what is perfection?
Right.
And there's kind of something cool about that.
I
Mm.
think so too. I think that just the way that they start with um like I am the starting place as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
here's how you do this thing. Are you doing it right? Are you doing it wrong? And like having the weeks be about that. I
Yeah.
really love that it's more a discovery of like me and how I choose to share me with words,
Mm.
you know? And that leads to I might rhyme, like I might have a more lyrical flow one day versus another. Like if you if you want to express via like beatboxing or like scenic improvisation, all those things are encouraged and allowed. And I think some of the like the classic ways that you learn improv, like there are elements of that, but it can also
Mm-hmm.
feel very much like this is game and like this is the comedic structure. And oh no, you varied from the structure, so you need to do it again. And even if it's like really kind teachers and patient teachers and talented people, at the end of the day, you've come away from a 3 hour class being like, I'm not doing it well enough. So there's a
Mm.
thing people are famous for it. It's established, and I can't do it. Like sometimes that's how it feels at the end of like a more traditional class. And I think that FLS is sort of has broken away from that, thankfully.
Totally. Totally, totally. Yeah. I mean, it's funny when I remember having Jelly Donut, I think he was in the first class. Of course, when you took it back in the day, I think they were in like, was he a facilitator, like proper?
Yeah, he was my facilitator,
Wow.
and then there were
Yeah,
some co-facilitators too.
that is so neat. I thought it was really cool, like having that, like the touch of like, hey, I'm on Broadway, but then Nate and the facilitators here are going to take it away. You are in good hands. Like get in, got your back, and
Yeah, yeah.
love, 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 love them. A quick note. I am hearing a little bit of feedback, and I'm wondering, is the microphone like rubbing up against anything? Do you know?
It might be against my like clothing, so I
Mm.
can mute while I'm not speaking. Are you still hearing it now?
No, now it's good.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's my motion, so
It is
I'll keep it
fine.
under control.
No, please move as much as you want. I've realized this is actually what dance session through FLSA. Like we'll talk about more things, but I do like to give this little like FLSA PSA is that there's so many things that it's helped me with beyond freestyling, singing, rapping, improv, right? It's
Yeah.
living in the moment and being able to like say something, right? Like that to me, if there's ever like a technical difficulty mid interview, there's like a part of my brain that's like, you should say something so it doesn't keep happening. And then the other part of my brain is like, don't say anything, you'll interrupt the flow. So it's like they go back and forth to be like, okay, don't like interrupt the flow, but once there's a clean break, you can pause, you can fix whatever is happening, and then you can move forward. And I think just being able to like live in the moment and be able to pay attention to what someone's saying, but also in like a part of your brain be able to like problem solve, it's like a very important skill that is hard but can be practiced and is really really helpful for real life.
Yeah. I think on top of that, it's like the confidence that it takes to say something in that moment, like unscripted. If we can like keep using the same example, I feel like if I were in your shoes, it's like, oh, I'm noticing this, but like, I don't know, what are they going to think if I say this? And oh, let me just leave it. But then my whole time, like that part of my brain that could be problem solving and then move to another problem is instead like telling me I should have done it. Definitely don't do it, or you could have done it 10 minutes ago, but you can't do it now. And I think that like freestyling, it's just I think it's definitely given me like the confidence to kind of roll with the unexpected because sometimes I feel like I'm trying to plan It's like if I say this, they're most likely going to say this, and I'm okay with that outcome. So that's what I'm gonna do. But when I get to that like decision tree and I don't know what's coming next, I think before I was a lot less likely to go for it. And now I feel like, okay, I don't know what might come next, but I trust myself. I trust Shamarah in the next second to deal with that. Like I just got to do this right now. And I think that's like something that I've learned from improv and from freestyling too.
Shamarah's got your back.
She does. She does.
Yeah.
And yours too. Yours too, audience. I've got your back also.
Same. Yes. That I feel like you were in my brain right there. I was like, I've done that before where I'll be 45 minutes into an interview and think, man, I should have said something a half hour ago, but it is too late. I'm not going to interrupt. It is, if I said something 20 minutes in, it would have been okay, but it is too far gone. Now the other person, because the other person's going to think, why didn't you say something 20 minutes ago?
Yeah. But like, does it matter? If that's what they think, does it matter? And B, are you sure that's what they're gonna think? And C, there's another question you gotta ask. You know, like who
Totally.
like you know what I mean? It frees us up to handle whatever is gonna come next if we're not like dredging ourselves over what happened before.
So true. So how'd you get your freestyle name, The Harmonizer?
I love this story too. Any New York well listen, he is a national treasure. Steve Genty, um, a freestyler and improviser that I know from UCB where I took my improv classes. We were all in a show at a UCB theater. It was like really late at night, and it was a freestyling show, but with like comedians. And I had there was like this portion at the end where it was sort of like Apollo, like I'm in a rap battle, and the audience like claps to see who won. And I was against this like character that somebody has developed, that Mariel Grillon has developed with like a stuffed animal, and it was so novel. It's like, oh, the cat always like it's a bodega cat he voices, and the cat always wins, like usually because it's like it's a cat, like oh, and it's rapping. Oh my gosh, that's usually how it goes. But I beat the cat in this thing, and I think I just was like, I had this confidence. And there are times in the middle of my flows when I'll just start to sing. Like I'll go from freestyling to singing and stuff. And not everybody does that. So I think that stands out in some people's minds. So that's, I'll zoom out for a second. I always thought that my freestyle name should be like bestowed upon me from another freestyler. But I was like, how can I control that? I don't know. I'm just not going to have one until it happens. All right, so zoom back into this story. Steve is one of the performers. He's there, and people are congratulating me on the win. They're like, Shamarah, you did great. Whoa, cool. And then like a clarion voice through the crowd, I hear Steve, like one of the most respected, like I respect this freestyler so much. He's like, Shamarah, the harmonizer. He pointed and said it. And I haven't looked back. I'm like, that's my name. That's my name. That's my name. Everybody heard it. I'm claiming it. That's my name. I don't care who has it before. I'm the harmonizer now because Steve said so. That's how I got my freestyle name. I love it though. I like it because it's like there's the harmonizing like from a music standpoint. And I remember when I first started telling people, they were like, oh, it's also because like you bring people together and it's like a title and like you command so much. Like everybody had their own reasons for why it made sense. I was like, oh yeah, that too. Yes, all those are the reasons. you know. So yeah, I really like it. I'm thankful that it came to me. That it came to Steve, who bestowed it on me.
Divine Inter Steven.
And that's his rap name now. Now
You're
he
welcome.
knows. Steve, if you're out there, Divine Inter Steven that's the new wave. So
Yes. Yes. Paying it forward. That's so fun. Yeah, I mean, definitely having a freestyle name, rap name, any type of name, nickname given to you has a like extra power for sure. Faux show, if you will.
That is so iconic, by the way that you've taken like your name and created these like do it all day. You need to.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's just so funny. I've always loved puns. And, you know, there's the people who love a pun and there are the people who hate a pun. And then there's like some that will like deal with it. Like they'll like, ha ha ha. If that's a good one, they'll like, you know, kind of middle of the road. And I've
Yeah.
seen some of those middle of the road people appreciate some of my show puns. And I'm like, yes.
Sometimes they need to be shown that they can be really funny.
May I introduce to you this mini segment of the show must go online, which is show and tell.
Oh my gosh. Perfect.
We'll just have some shenanigans.
Oh, show. I'm trying to think of what I.
It'll be going on, so
Yikes.
you can anytime you think of them, they're fun. This feels like the right time, the right opportunity to seize the moment and just do like a few bars back and forth. No music, just kind of like show the people. We got to give the people what they want.
Yes. Yes.
Why don't
I
you
am
take
down
it
for it.
away? And I
Me.
will. Yeah, I mean, I like to do audience guest member first, and then I'll pop in,
Okay.
and we'll just
Okay.
go back and
Okay.
forth. You got this.
I hope I do. All right, let me clear my throat. I'm gonna do this because it floats the boat of show. She's the host with the most because she's taking it to you from coast to coast. She's got the Broadway beat on lock. You already know. Lock, stock, and barrel. And look at her really curly hair. It'll make you smile all the while. Ooh, and let's see what's going on. I want to see what show is bringing to the throne.
Yeah, bring him to the throne with Shamarah the harmonizer, you know? Yeah, doesn't matter if you're rapping, you're freestyling, you're just giving it all, you lock in, you pop in. Yeah, it's so much fun. You just go with the flow. Yeah, you gotta do the robot, don't you know? Yeah.
No, that
Uh,
was yeah. Ooh, I'm so sorry that I messed the flow. I wasn't laughing at you, and I hope you know because giggling is how I show support. Anyways, let's go. Be a real good sport. Oh,
yeah, a real good sport. Yeah, I love a good giggle, don't you know? That's the heart. Yeah, the harmonizer, the heart harmonizer. Yeah, you can combine them, don't you know, zer, gozer, fozer, Pfizer, Pizer. So many different things in your mind, her. Yeah, that's what I heard today. I'ma pass it up. Can't you wrap it up today?
oh, okay, it's almost done. I'm glad to be rapping with the number one. Oh, yep, and you already know. Thanks for coming through and tuning in to the show.
Bam, bam, bam.
Woo!
Nailed it. Gonna clip that little piece off, send it out into the universe, see what people missed today.
I love it. I love it.
Yes. Yeah, and for anyone who's watching in the future, first of all, hello, future. Hope it's treating you nicely. Second, yeah, these interviews, what's nice is that during quarantine, especially, people's lives, it's like, oh, I'll tune in a little here, I'll tune in a little there. But then we just keep these on forever, ever, so that there's no stress. We don't need
Yeah.
any more stress in our lives.
Not one more second of stress. No, no, no.
Um, you know, this is actually a good segue, showway. That's a little bit of a push, but I like it. um, how has quarantine been for you? I mean, I need to give a little background. Oh, are you back? Okay.
I'm back. That's how quarantine has been. I'm kidding. No, 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 no,
Oh.
no. Continue, please.
Well, I watched this video that you were on Lit Nation. Am I remembering correctly?
Litverse?
Litverse, yes.
Wow, you watched that. Wow, thanks.
Yeah, and I was obsessed with your unboxing. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can tell you about the unboxing. Um, a friend of mine created the Litverse. It's like a digital location where Will Martinez was showcasing creators of color. I think mostly Black creators, but like the full diaspora encouraged to bring their like created works and have a place to host them. So I was invited to Jeffrey Copeland's show, where you're supposed to create something in a day. And so that day I just had like a quick idea about like unboxing videos. For those who haven't seen it, go check it out. But on YouTube, I'm a big fan of YouTube. Like I'll just like I have influencers and creators that I'll just like watch. Like oh, I gotta stop. Like before I watch like Grey's Anatomy or like SVU, I'm checking for Evelyn of the Internet's new video first. For example. So I'm familiar with the like genre of videos where somebody like has a package or a subscription box and the whole video is them like opening it and showing you like what the experience is of like using that new product or telling you like I'm excited to use these and then in a month they'll tell you like these are the ones that I liked. So I made a video based on that, but instead of like a normal box, she's unboxing a different kind of box. I almost don't want to spoil it, but it's like imagine I don't know, like an unbox like a subscription where instead of you get products, you get like emotions. Like you get your state of mind and like that's your state of mind for the rest of the month. And honestly, that is how I have at that time that's how I was feeling about quarantine. It really feels like every 4 to 6 weeks it's a different thing. Like you're dealing with a different quarantine in some ways. Like the first me in early quarantine is different than like me today, different than like 3 months ago, 6 months ago. And I think it's also like that video, it's interesting you bring it up because it's how I think thinking about it in that way, and having a creative outlet to share it is also something new that quarantine brought to me. Because I think in a more traditional way of the world, I may have like had that idea and shared it with some people. Like, wouldn't it be funny? Like, imagine like an unboxing. It's like an unboxing video, but like for your emotions, and it would just be that joke, and that's where it would live. But instead, there is like something that we can all watch and hopefully enjoy. So it's definitely been ups and downs. I feel like I'm taking it one day at a time. I'm trying to lean on my communities, of which you are a part, like FLSA and friends from. I'm like reconnecting with friends from college. Like it's in some way this great equalizer, but it's tough and beautiful in different amounts each day.
Yes, Slim very much agrees.
Slim, amen to you. Thank you. And I agree. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Ooh, that's a
Now
good
you know
point.
that's a good point too. What he just said. So, mm.
Oh,
Preach.
come on, come on.
Slim better preach.
Do you have any pets? Are you a dog lover?
I'm a dog lover. I do not have any pets though. I just love from afar.
That's fair. From afar. Slimbo, Slim, it's okay, bud. He loves to bark at the neighbors and be like, "You are too close to this property," and it's like, "Hun, they are far away. You don't have to worry." No, they're biking. Oh no.
Well, he could be yelling at them. He could be doing a tight five. We don't know. Like maybe you've inspired him to become a performer, and that's his like audience rolling by.
Bark, 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 bark,
What's
bark.
the deal with bark, 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 woof?
Woof. Rough, rough. Oh,
Oh gosh.
Slimbo. You're so
Woofer.
funny.
No, don't do that. I was gonna tell a joke. I don't want to tell it. I'm rescinding it.
Whoop.
That's a joke for somebody else. Okay.
Okay. We'll just leave it at that. I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
want to
yeah.
know it off camera though.
Yes. That's the show after the show. If you
Post
subscribe to
show.
the if you subscribe to the box, the subscription box of deleted scenes, that's how you'll get to see.
Oh, I like that. Also, what you're describing with that video that I saw, that's like a perfect TikTok video, right? Like those type of clever, like a spoof, something that's like short enough that like someone can consume
Hmm.
and also be like, oh, that was an interesting take.
Yeah.
Mm,
I feel like, I mean, friends have been encouraging me to like look at TikTok as a venue. Not, I mean, to look at it, but also to like maybe start creating on it. I'm behind. I feel like I'm a little bit of a Luddite in that way. I'm like, no, I just got used to Instagram. No, I don't want to. Now it's Reels and now it's TikTok. And it's going to be like, I don't know, fish. Like there's a new app all the time.
no,
Just like
that's how I feel about
thinking,
Clubhouse.
oh, Clubhouse. The great conference call.
Oh my gosh.
That one is cool though. As we talked about, I saw a very cool turn on the medium because it is like an audio only app. So I mean, I don't know. I saw a very cool piece of media, like a cool piece on, or I listened to a cool piece on Clubhouse. Um, yeah, like a musical done fully audio wise is very cool. So
In the
yeah, I feel like
Heights.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just singing In the Heights. Please keep going.
Yes, if I have some, I feel like if I had something very compelling to bring to the medium, like
Mm-hmm.
I would be more energized to like get over the hump of like, okay, you got to learn it, then you got to optimize it, then you got to like get followers.
Yep.
Like maybe I need some tools to help my TikToks really pop. Like what else am I gonna need to get? Like a new camera, a tripod, or something. And it's like
Wow.
I don't know. I'm just
So much.
some of those things take away from like just making the thing
Yep.
or being like doing the creative thing. So for right now, it feels like that like energy that it takes is a little bit higher than I want it to be, but something will
Mm.
push me over the edge.
Yo, I feel you so hard. It took me so long. It took so many interviews of people like going viral on TikTok and like being on my series and being like, but you would have a great time. You could just already post the videos that you do. And what I would just suggest is that there are certain things that I didn't realize, like it might not be as popular or go as viral as like some of these like TikTok videos, but like I'll post a curtain call or a video that I filmed last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and just like put a little extra spice on it and be like, that's a TikTok.
Okay, yeah, repurposing content for new audiences in new ways. I think that's the name of the game. So
Mhm.
absolutely.
And I feel like you do a lot of, I'm trying to remember what your corporate strategy and performance. Let's unbox that. Let's talk about where you went to school because that's pretty neat.
Sure. So yeah, I went to a high school and then I went to a college afterward. I
Cool.
went to, I went to I don't know. I'm trying not to be one of the people who's like, oh, I went to school in Cambridge and like let people guess. But I studied economics at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, um, commonly known as MIT. It's cool. I feel you know what it is though. Like I've learned. My theory is that like comedians don't always like you'll there are lots of like Harvard educated comedians, but they're not flaunting the Harvard part because I think that takes away from their I think
Mhm.
they think that takes away from their street cred. Like
Uh-huh.
I remember I met Colin Jost one time, the now or then head writer of SNL.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I had manifested it. This is a big, like, that's a bigger story, but I was like, I will meet Colin Jost, and here's what I'm going to say. And I was like so prepared. And I was ready to be like, you went to Harvard and I went to MIT. And like, they're kind of rivals. Like, I thought we were going to have a whole thread of conversation about that and how we're both doing comedy and how like, maybe that's a left turn from what we thought we'd be doing. I promise you, like, I stood in a line to like walk up and talk to Colin Jost. And I was like, hey, like, I went to MIT and you went to Harvard. And he's like, oh, cool. And that was it. That was it.
No.
I was like, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you're right. What do those things have to do with each other? Goodbye. Never mind.
Bye bye.
Um,
Oh.
I eventually got over. I'm just now getting over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think I've gotten a little bit away from the question. That is where I went to school. I did find that like a lot of my like one of the mottos for MIT is like work hard, play hard because like the work is difficult, and I think that like it's a self-selecting crew of people who want to bring that level of excellence. It is people who know how to unwind. Like there's a lot of stereotypes about how like we're robots or like all theoretical physicists or something, but we're not. We are a very, you know, like a well-rounded populace of people who just want to bring excellence to whatever it is that we're doing and studying. So for me, that was, you know, economics and like and some math and some other things blended in, but it was also like performance. So I realized I look back at my college experience and it was like I was always like singing and performing and doing different things. Like I had joined an a cappella group in my freshman like first semester and then quickly pivoted to like a gospel choir that became my core of like best friends in college. Um, and like I was always on these committees and uh, like I got to give a speech in my senior year. So like I was finding ways, even though I wouldn't have said like I want to do comedy or I want to do speaking and music or anything, like I found a way to do those things, even when it wasn't necessarily obvious or helpful when I had a bunch of homework to do. Um, but like when they say in Jurassic Park, life finds a way. Like I think like passion finds a way, you know?
Ooh,
Um,
how profound.
yeah.
I love that. I do see what you're saying about MIT slash Harvard slash any of those type of schools, but I thought that it was so cool when I heard that because I'm like, oh, I like that you're giving it this new depth that I wouldn't have thought of an MIT grad doing comedy, and not that they wouldn't, but like you're saying, you have these stereotypes,
Mm.
and it's not like you talk about it all the time. Like I only saw it in an interview, and I think it was in your bio, but I think that's like it's like a cool fun fact or side note. It's not like your whole identity, which it could be cool, no
Yes.
shade if you wanted to, but like,
I think no, I think what I'm remembering it's like if high school senior Shamarah heard somebody saying, you know, like MIT is a side note, I think she would lose her mind. Like the journey that I've gone on, this is actually kind of like it was a big revelation for me. Like if there's time, I can get into it. I feel like when you talk about like where you go to school or where I went to school not being a huge part of my identity, I feel like that's a surprise that would have been a surprise to me then because I was just like I think I was really trying to find myself and my identity and like everything I liked about myself was around like my like problem solving ability or how smart I could seem, not even be in some ways. It was like, you know, I think part of it is like being a minority in a high school, like a um, what is the word? Like an advanced high school program that I was in where there wasn't a lot of diversity. I felt like I had to compete, and I felt like that's how people knew that I was like worth something, I guess, you know. And so I just really found a lot of my identity in that part of like being smart or like the youngest one who can solve all the problems, you know. Um, and when that started to shift, like it was, I think it was a winning formula for a while in that, like, when things went well for me at school or work, I felt like I was on top of the world. But invariably, like for everyone, there are moments when it's like, it's okay, or moments when it's like tough or bad. And I noticed that my mood was just like wildly following those trajectories. Like every career has ups, downs, and middles. And like, I was proud of myself or just even keel or what am I doing here? You know, like, and I think when I realized that I didn't want to be on that roller coaster anymore, like finding art again and being intentional about it is what helped me realize like I am somebody outside of this. I'm somebody outside of being, smart or being funny or being anything. Like I am Shamarah regardless. I'm a child of God anyway. But like art, I think a lot of people can discover that in many ways. Art helped me do that. And I think without it I would be like a person that went to MIT whose whole life is about that because I felt like that's what I'd worked so hard to achieve. But then there's pressure with that too. It's like the amount of times, and even the amount of people who went to the same school I did, and we all have these moments of like, I don't feel like an MIT graduate though, or like, am I letting people down? And it's just like, oh, none of these things, not even like being a great comedian or anything, is going to fulfill, right? But I think that having something that is authentic expression, especially if it's made up, it's like, who's going to tell me? Well, people do try to tell you that like your improv isn't good enough, and it's like, oh, the thing that I invented with 7 other people in front of 30 other people, it wasn't good enough for you. Oh, okay, okay, it wasn't good enough. um, but yeah, I think it's definitely a journey of kind of like deconstructing that like wall that I built around my identity, that it had to be like, I had to be the smart one. I remember watching like shows like Criminal Minds and like Law and Order SVU, and I would usually identify with like the young phenom character who was like a computer brain, maybe wasn't really respected all the time by their peers, but they were the smartest. And I was like, I have to be that. That's how I want to make an impact, right? That's how I'm gonna make an impact if I will at all. Um, can I share one more story? I feel like I
Bring it
remember
on.
I remember being at work and thinking like, this is, if I want to do well, if I want to build a brand of like, Shamarah is worth working with or worth taking a chance on, like she does great stuff. I thought that had to be about my like productivity or my like great ideas in the moment about the work. I was just very like, people don't see me. I want people to see me this way. And some of that is like learned behavior, like trying to. There's so many things about me are like different than corporate America. I'm a Black woman. I am plus sized. I do have these other hobbies, and it's like, no, I don't want them to see me as like as a buffoon. Like that's how I felt. I'm realizing I could be pretty hard on myself back in the day. So I'm just really grateful that we've kind of turned a corner. But I remember being like, I gotta have the best like PowerPoint. If my model is how I'm gonna make a mark, and then like I would do these other things on the side, like serve on a panel about like women in business or like Black people, like providing like a Black person's perspective of being in the office, or even just like talking to people at happy hour about like, people. Once one person found out I was taking comedy classes, the whole office was like, are you doing your comedy, Shamarah? Can you tell us about it? How's it going? Are you gonna be on SNL? Um, but it was once I opened up about those other experiences, it's like that's how I would make that impact that I always wanted to make. Like I thought it was going to be through having the best Excel model, but like the thing that has like leadership remembering me and being like, Shamarah, great job on this. It's the fact that they saw the panel that I did. It wasn't they also saw the work, and I think they're like, that's great too, but they see more of me. And it just kind of showed me like, oh, okay, like I'm meant to do this. I'm good at this, but I think I'm meant to do this, and people see that, you know.
Mm. Wow, this self discovery. You're
Yeah.
really unboxing a lot.
This is called self actualization. If you can see.
Oh, I will take this month. Thank you.
Great, 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 great.
But yeah, no, I I appreciate you sharing all that, and it's so tough to like be self-reflective, especially if you're in the middle of a situation, let alone even if it's been a couple of years. But I think so many of us, we take this identity that we were in high school or college or our first job, second job, whatever, and we think like, this is who I am. I could never be someone else. And there is this freedom in being like, well, I am a human with multiple interests and personalities and lived experiences, and just who you are and what makes you diverse and unique
Yeah.
certainly brings this uniqueness to this table. And it's great when you're able to like take advantage of that and like feel it out and not be like afraid of it or ashamed of any of this like extra stuff that makes you special but can also make you feel other. And
Yeah.
that's what's scary, is when you know that this thing about you, whether it's singing, acting, the arts, or whether it's your identity, anything like this, that there's this thing inside of you that you're like, if I could just be my full self, I would feel so much better, and I think other people would appreciate me more. But there's like that thing holding you down. So I'm really glad that you're able to like see that and then be able to be you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a process, right? Like we're all still
Mm-hmm.
discovering ourselves every day, especially with an unprecedented event, or at least in our lifetime, unprecedented event like this, like quarantine.
Yeah.
It was honestly, I think it was an opportunity to either like double down on hiding from myself or
Mm,
find some new things. And so,
yeah.
we're 12-ish months into quarantine. I think some of the things I've discovered, it's like just because on month 10, I was like, all right. And now like the floodgates are opening.
Yeah.
So who knows what I'll discover tomorrow is what I'm trying to say. We're
So
still learning.
true.
Yeah.
We are learning, we are evolving. Do you have, I know I said an hour, so do you have a few extra minutes or do you have like a hard out?
I have a few extra minutes. Yeah. Let's keep going.
Cool, cool, cool. Because I want to, as much as you feel comfortable, we're talking about the pandemic and quarantine, but there have been a lot of really intense moments. Of course, George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, and then to, what happened last night with the AAPI community and the hate crimes, and people not even calling it a hate crime, which is absurd because it was obviously a hate crime, and we have to stand with the Asian community. And I feel like this just keeps happening. Of course, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm Jewish, and so with all the anti-Semitic things happening, it's so important that you speak out when something happens, regardless of if it's in your community, because if you keep silent, it's going to happen to someone else, and then it's going to happen to you, and who's speaking out. So
Mhm.
just as much as you feel comfortable sharing, how has this year been, and how are you processing all of it?
Yeah. I think it's a really big question. I feel like especially with the more recent like events, I'm probably still processing to a point before I'd want to like say something, but then it's like we do have to speak, right? So I think that I'm learning that there's value in like speaking, even just voicing the confusion or voicing the I don't know exactly what to say. Like I've reached out to like friends today being like I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. I don't even, just trailing off into ellipses. And I think that the connection is more valuable than like having a perfect phrase in most things that I've experienced. I mean, it feels like a moment that's just like worthy of pause, of just like what like that's how I feel about it right now. In terms of how I'm dealing with it, I do feel like, I mean, there was some level of compartmentalization in like the summer and spring when things were like when the events were happening and the protests were breaking out. It felt like, you know in some ways it was frustrating when people wanted to like reach out and affirm. In some ways it's like they were affirming their own allyship just with me as an audience member. Like I remember getting an email that was like, it was just this declarative like, hey, I just want you to know that I am an ally, period.
Okay.
a I don't know. What is the response to that? Um, but also, I appreciated more than the note. Like that's one note that I remember, but I do remember like having people reach out, like the volume of it. And even if it wasn't like the perfect phrasing or timing, I appreciated that. But I think the most frustrating part is like when people say like I can't believe all the stuff that's happening all of a sudden, or like the recent events, or I'm sorry that it's gotten so hard, and just this element of you don't even, it's like, while they're showing their empathy, it just reinforces that like, how could you not know this from before? That means you weren't listening to like me before, or the others in your lives before. I think in some ways I'm like, as a woman of color who isn't Asian, I empathize with the feeling of like feeling like the people, like women like me, are being hunted. I empathize with that feeling, but in this particular instance, I don't and can't know the exact feeling that they're feeling right now. Um, but I stand with them, and I don't know. I'm actively trying to understand like the things that I can do, say, um, like donate to, like what are the actions that I can take, what are the things that I can learn, like what is my exact role in like standing up and speaking out against this. But I think while I'm on that journey, it's important to recognize like, and just to maybe state like I'm figuring out what that looks like for me, but I recognize that I do have a role in that, and that we all do, um, on a macro and a micro scale. But I mean, I think it's hard to imagine that level of like disconnectedness from yourself to be able to hurt people in that way. Um, and it's just like a horrifying thing. And the fact that people are still, I don't know how many stories like this we could hear, and people are still like, okay, but that's not the reason. Like the doubt that people are still comfortable saying, or the thought experiments that people are still willing to do just to like win an argument or play devil's advocate or protect their own understanding of a reality, I think is what it really comes down to. Um, we, I mean, I hope that I'm wrong, but I feel like we won't see change until and unless people are comfortable like breaking down their understanding of reality to see like, yes, like this can happen in 2021 today, because it did happen in 2021 today. I think people are still so comfortable. Like, I mean, I remember after the 2016 election, the Blackish episode, where it was like a powerful statement on like what that victory meant or what it symbolized for a lot of us. But the script still had this moment of, and I remember like the main character was like, I don't think I don't think all, or even most, or even a lot of Americans are racist or whatever. I remember being like, why did you add that? Like, how do you know? No one knows that, but don't we know that it's like no one's gonna do the math like a pie chart of like this is exactly the. But I think it's trivial to say. You know what I'm saying? Like statistics is kind of this thing that I feel like people always think that they get it, even though it's like a full range of study. And so people are like, it's not all of us. And I think people extrapolate that to say it can't be a big chunk of us. But those are different statements, right? Like even if it's not most of us, like 10% of billions is a lot. You know what I mean? 1% of billions is a lot. How many does it take for it to impact all of us? Not that many. So let's just kind of recognize we have a deadly, a lethal problem. We don't know the scale of it. That should be scarier. You don't know the scale of it. Let's stop trying to deny it and let's get at the root. But no, we're going to keep squabbling about like well, it's not as bad as it was in 1950 or 1960 or 1970. Like, you know, that's kind of where I am with it today. But thank you for asking and for holding space for that discussion.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your feelings and your honesty. And I think really what you were saying at the beginning too about sometimes it's just good to hold this space and say, like, I don't know everything. I'll never know everything, but I'm doing my best, and I want to have these conversations. And this is why, fortunately, unfortunately, this does seem to happen a lot during these conversations, because I think it's so important, and hearing so many different perspectives helps me as a human, and anyone watching, I hope, can, see it from different perspectives. But really, it's just, when is it enough? When are we going to realize the hate and the gun violence and just all these things that you would think that would be enough? Dayenu, that would be enough. There's a Jewish term, Dayenu, that would be enough. And, we have Passover coming up this weekend, and it's a lot of self-reflection and that going in with it. But it's, there's been a lot of sorrow recent, it's so, like you're saying, though, it's like, it's not just like a recent thing. It's like you see it through the years, all of this stuff happening, and you think, like, how is this still happening? How are the police being funded so much, and these school kids can't even get a safe school? And they're going through these lockdowns. I remember visiting my high school and, like, needing this special thing to, like, key into my to get into these different buildings. I was like, we didn't have that when I was a kid. And just, like, all these different aspects of how hard it is. And it's just like, when's it gonna be enough? When's the government gonna step up and make actual changes? And that's obviously just one aspect of it, but it is a huge aspect. It's a huge thing to be affirmed and not have what we're seeing Georgia, seeing in Florida with these abortion ridiculous, and LGBTQIA matters, and trans women are women, trans men are men, non-binary humans are non-binary. They are who they say they are. They are valid. You are valid. Black lives matter. It's these shouldn't be hard statements to make, because we're humans, and we should have this, like, basic level of empathy to just say, you are as you identify. This is who you are. Yes. Okay. Let's continue. All right. And that just seems to be such a hard baseline to meet with some people. And it's like, how can you further a conversation? Exactly like you're saying, how can you continue, like, growing if we can't even agree on this baseline? If we can't agree that this is an apple and not an orange, and you're like, but it's an apple, and they're like, but could it be an orange? You're like, but it's not, like, right? Like, we know this is an apple. And it's like, it's gaslighting, obviously. And it's just all these things that I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and allowing me to share these. And just, like, yeah, sometimes I just, like, it's like you have to get it out, because it just is inside you, and you're so frustrated and you don't know what to do, and you want to help, and you're donating and sharing all these things. But at the end of the day, like, just a human conversation can really help.
Yeah. I think it's the only thing that helps, like, people having the patience and the bravery to talk to each other about these things, like, one-on-one, but also, in debate halls and, like, in Congress. Everything is just people talking, and who, not, like, clearly not who has the most convincing argument, but who can connect with you at a given time. And so at this point, I feel like it's just hope for a generation that maybe I'm not a part of. Like, perhaps it's, if there's justice, if there's a real reckoning and a real understanding of how so many systems in our country are not just, like, allowing this, but they were built on this kind of oppression and, like, this kind of mass education or miseducation about people and what they mean and what they bring. I'm just hoping that there is a generation in the future that will see that for what it is. I don't know if it's going to be like ours, but there's hope for the future.
Yes. Better future, better tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a good segue, I think, into sharing a nonprofit or charity that you feel passionate about.
Yeah. Management Leadership for Tomorrow is a nonprofit program. They have many programs now, but I was part of their career prep program that takes minority college sophomores who are interested in business careers, and it's really trying to address like the pipeline of how there's a certain percentage, I believe, at the time. I almost want to just look up. If you can give me a second, I'm just going to read from their website, mlt.org. 33, so a third of the U.S. is Black, Latinx, or of indigenous descent. But when you get to the top ranks, like people who are in business, like that percentage is way lower. And then like people who are middle management and then senior executives. By the time you get to senior executives, there's only 5% of leadership of the Fortune 500 is Black, Latinx, or Indigenous. So it's like we go from a third of the country, but the people in this seat of power is like 5%. And so this nonprofit is really around like getting to students like at different areas in the pipeline. So they have programs for children, programs for college students, for young professionals, and then experienced professionals. Just putting us in touch with each other, and then like corporate sponsors that provide a lot of like coaching and teaching, and just like sharing with a population of people that wouldn't have had other opportunities to learn that. Like, this is how you secure an internship. This is how you format a resume. This is how you turn an internship into a job. And this is how you outperform in your first 100 days. Like, all these structured areas that I think people, I guess they recognize that those are the junctures where like the numbers tend to fall. Like, there's so many unspoken rules that somebody who is like focused on their work and even excelling in terms of the work, from a social standpoint, could feel like that's where you get like, oh, we're not a good fit company wise. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, I never got feedback about this, and I don't know. Like, even there are times like where I feel mystified. Like, what am I doing wrong? What's even the problem? Why am I the only person in this room that looks like this when I know I went to school with, at least dozens of us that would have been interested in doing the same thing. And it's the things that I learned through my program at MLT, Management Leadership for Tomorrow, that really closed those gaps for me. I'm still like involved with the alumni community today. I met some of my closest friends in the program. So MLT means a lot to me, and I hope that some part of their story connects with the audience as well. I really encourage folks to check out their website too.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm definitely going to go check that out. A lot of great points you're bringing up.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it is astounding when you hear the numbers. I know you're saying you're such a numbers person, but really when you're when you zoom in on that and you think, how is this possible? And we've been saying about a better future, a better tomorrow. It does start at these personal levels, and then we can grow from there. And personal level, I hear a gate opening, so hopefully that's okay. No, it's probably just the family. Thank you. I do want to make sure to share, one of our friends in FLSA is going through a rough time, and Dr. Polly has this GoFundMe page that I've shared a few times, but I will also link MLT and Dr. Polly's GoFundMe in the show notes here, so that anyone who has the means can help. You can read their story in the GoFundMe, but it's just it's like there are all these like big problems happening, and sometimes if you can just help an individual, that really makes such a big difference as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So on that note, Can you share where people can find you on social media?
Oh my gosh. That one really took me by surprise. um, yes. I'm on Instagram at Shamarah, my first name, SHAMARH underscore. That's Shamarah underscore. One day I'm gonna be on YouTube. One day I'm gonna have a website. It's coming soon. But right now you can see me for updates on those. You can catch me on Instagram. Um, yeah, and I mean I also perform a lot with the Armory Comedy. So if you check out the Armory Comedy, you'll probably see. I mean, there's so much great programming. I'm often involved in some of the shows and the things that we're up to. If you check out FLS Academy, you might see me in one of your workshops. But Instagram is where I be. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Show, for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This has been such a nice conversation. We've gotten some of those highs and lows and creativity and deep and meaningful. And I appreciate you taking the time. And to wrap things up, you can find me at BWay Show, as you see from this banner, BWAYSHO, BWay Show podcast for all your podcast needs. And actually, today there was a new episode with Lauren Boyd, who's in Hamilton. She toured with Wicked and West Side Story and is just phenomenal. Such a delight. So check that out. Oh, and today's last day of a podcast giveaway. So if that's something you're interested in, it's pretty simple. Subscribe, rate, and review to BWay Show the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Send me a screenshot that you left a comment. Click, boom, you're entered to win. And on
Cool.
that note, thank you. Yes. Are there any final words that you came into today wanting to make sure to share with everyone?
I think we've talked about it. I just wanted to kind of talk with you and, share with the people. So, um, just have a good rest of the week, everybody. That's what I want to share. Do what you can to have a good rest of the week and let go of the rest.
Yes, 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 yes. Be nice to yourselves. Be nice to one another. Wear a mask. Be safe. Let's take care of ourselves. See you at the show.
Absolutely. See you.
Bye.